well, let's focus on North America then.
Okay,
What?
so
Yeah.
right, so this idea that this system still exists, it kind of goes back to that thing like, are what laws still exist right now, presently, that you feel benefit white people over other races?
Well, in my home state of North Carolina, here, our voting power is being obliterated by the state legislature, and they've done that through various means. Um, in one of the most recent and high-profile ways, they redrew the voter district maps, and the judge who ruled against these new maps that Republicans were trying to, you know, get to be the new maps that were used for the previous election. Um, they said that they were racially discriminatory with surgical precision, is the language that was used in terms of who they were carving out from different districts. And while there were no racial words in the on the maps, it wasn't like black people here, white people here. Although they did actually have those maps. It's funny. It came out later. Like there's images of those maps of from session, and they did have percentages, racial percentages on them. So like, because they anticipated there would be a problem with what they were doing, and they were trying to plan for getting around it. So they knew they were being racially discriminatory, but they were always going to plan to do that anyway and to find a way
But
around it. Hang on,
why
hang on.
why
Let me tell you the full story, and then you can respond. So the rest of the story goes, after the court ruled that they drew these maps with uh, surgical precision, they were racially discriminatory. Republicans then went on a campaign to make sure that those judges who ruled against them lost their seats, and they were successful in that. They then promoted two new judges who took the place of those judges and then reopened the case. An extremely rare situation where a court reopens its own decision and then ruled differently in their favor so that they could then use these maps in the election that's upcoming.
Okay. Well, I mean, from my perspective, I see that and it makes total sense to me. When you have black people, like generally speaking, vote over 80% for Democrats, and if I'm in a state trying to maintain, my party's presence in Congress, I'm going to do anything I can to make sure that happens. So with that knowledge in my mind that black people tend to vote Democratic, I'm going to try to draw the districts in a way that benefits my political party. And it doesn't mean that I'm trying to hurt black people. It means I'm trying to hurt Democrats. So, um, yeah, yeah. I mean, but that goes back to what I was speaking to earlier about the notion that people are going to do whatever they need to in order to maintain power of any kind, right? It's wealth, power, and prestige is the things people are going to pursue, and they will do, generally speaking, whatever they need to achieve it.
Yeah, but is that's not really the question, brother. The question isn't like, is there some logic that explains their answer or their actions? That's not the question. It makes
But but does the but does this not, like, I guess the aspect I'm missing is how does this actually diminish voting power?
Well, the mechanics behind how it diminishes voting power are it's basically like it makes it more difficult for people to access the voting booth because then they have to go farther away. So they extend the time that it takes people. There's people don't have a lot of time to go vote. They make sure that they've closed polling places to make sure that people can't access ones that are closer to them. So they have to go farther away. They cut early voting, which made it more convenient and have people more opportunities to do it. They cut different types of IDs that used to be allowable that now are no longer allowed. They made sure that people cannot be given food or drink in line when they are waiting to vote. I mean, they're trying any possible way they can to make sure to disincentivize people from going to the polls. Now you can, you know, the question. I mean, I get that it makes sense to you and it's logical. It makes sense to me too. I was never questioning the logic of it. But the question is it justified?
I mean, personally, I would say it's justified. Um,
So regardless of
and that's
whether it
just
has a
because, like,
discriminatory racial impact, it doesn't matter to you as long as there's some
well,
other
well,
justification
well,
for it.
no. I'm trying to figure out exactly where the discriminatory racial impact is. Because all of the examples you just
Because the
listed to is like
districts that
that
are
sounds
being
like that's still going
drawn,
to impact everyone.
no,
Well,
it's
well,
specifically
let me
drawn to
finish.
impact the black people who are being excluded from different districts, so they have to travel farther. That's the whole point. It is specifically drawn to make that happen to black people, mostly black people. That's what I'm telling
Are
you.
you are you saying it's a are you saying it's a district that's non are you saying it's a district that's non-contiguous? I guess is my point.
I'm just giving you. I mean, what more do you want than what I've already said?
Well, because I'm like, well, once again, like I am from like a more rural area, and it's really strange to me that, like, they'll say we've got these issues like lines and stuff like that, and it's like, of course, gerrymandering is going to be a thing. Everyone does it. But I have to drive, a good half hour even to get
Everyone
to
doesn't
my polling.
listen. Hang on, I'm sorry, Zenith, but I gotta interrupt you there, brother. Everyone doesn't do this, okay? Everyone doesn't do what's happening in North Carolina right now. It's unprecedented. That's why I used that word when I said about that court case. The fact pattern that I just listed to you there is unprecedented in American history and in the state of North Carolina. Like, so it's not everyone does that. That is not an accurate statement of a reflection of the facts.
Oh, I'm not saying everyone does that. I'm just
Okay, you
saying
did say
that
you literally
the
just
idea
did
that
say that.
this
So
No, I'm saying I I thought what I said was from my experience being out in a rural area, it seems silly to me that having to stand in line is going to be something when I don't have a drop box on the corner. I got to get my butt in my car and drive to the polling place. And above and beyond, like absentee ballots are a thing, early voting is a thing. I just I It gets to a certain point where I really can't buy the excuses. So instead of
I just told you they're cutting
talking about
early
this,
voting
why don't
purposefully to
we
make it harder for people to vote. I just literally said that, right?
but I don't see how, like, in my perspective, I'm saying that does not make it sound like it's actually making it harder to vote. And so why don't we make it easier for everyone across the board and do something like have a national holiday?
I mean, that's a totally different point that I support, but like I don't know how you can't see how closing early voting times would not make it more difficult for people to vote. Like literally they're lessening the amount of times that you have a possibility of voting. Like how is that not I mean, how is that not basic math?
Well, for one thing, I don't think early voting should be a thing in a certain sense. I like the idea of, like,
Okay, but that's a
let's bump
totally
up the number
separate
of polling
point.
places.
Whether
Let's
you
have a
think
national holiday
whether you
and
think
get
early
people.
voting should be a thing or not is not at all what I was talking about. So like what I was saying
But
is
well, no, 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 because it does make a difference, because you can't say that the only reason they're doing these policies is to hurt black people when there are other perfectly fine explanations that even I agree with that would move things in that direction.